Hello children, in this video you will be learning about what are prefixes and suffixes. First let's look at what is a prefix. A prefix is a group of letters we add to the beginning of a word. Prefixes are also called as attachments that change the word's meaning. Example, when the prefix "un" is added to the word kind, it creates the word unkind, which means the opposite of. So prefixes and suffixes also have meanings, but it cannot be taken or considered as a word. So here are some examples of prefixes: re, mis, pre, un, sub, and this. So let's try adding prefixes to words and see what are the words we get. So when I add the prefix "this" to the word connect, I get a new word disconnect. When the prefix "im" is added to the word balance, we get the word imbalance. When the prefix "un" is added to the root word happy, we get a new word unhappy, the opposite of happy. When we add the prefix "in" to the word correct, we get a new word incorrect. So let's look at some more examples. When I add the prefix "re" to the word fill, I get a word refill, which means fill again, because the meaning for the prefix "re" is again. One more example, using the same prefix "re", which means again. So when we add the prefix "re" to the word make, we get a new word remake, which means to make again. So let's look at another example. When I'm adding the prefix "mis", which means wrong, I'm adding the prefix "mis" to the word spell. I get the word misspell, which means to spell wrong. And when I add the prefix "mis" to the word use, it creates a new word misuse, which means to use wrongly. So children, a prefix is added to the beginning of a word to make a new word. For example, when we add "re" to write, we get rewrite. When we add the prefix "un" to happy, we get unhappy. When we add the prefix "this" to honest, we get dishonest. So here are some of the common prefixes and suffixes. So let's look at their meanings. Re, it means again. Un, which means not. This, meaning not again. Pre, it means before. Mis, it means wrong. Now let's look at the suffixes. Er, which means more. Est, most. Ful, which means full of. The suffix less, which means without. The suffix able, which means able to. And the suffix er refers to a person. So, a suffix is a word part placed or added at the end of a word. For example, full, which means full of. Er, which means more. Ly, which describes how. Less, which means without. Y again, which means full of. Est, which means most. Ing, which means now. And able, which means able to. So now let's look at the suffix full, which means full of. For example, the word beautiful, which means full of beauty. When the suffix full is added to the word joy, we get the word joyful, which means full of joy. When the suffix full is added to the word help, we get a new word helpful, which means full of helpfulness. When the suffix full is added to the word color, we get the new word colorful, which means full of color. When the suffix ness, ness is added to a root word called kind, we get a new word kindness, which shows you the state of being. When the suffix ly is added to the word slow, we get a word slowly, which shows you how an action is being done. When the suffix less is added to the word fear, we get a word fearless, which means without fear. And when full is added to the word care, it means full of care. We get the new word careful. When full is added to cheer, we get the word cheerful, which means full of cheer. And when a word ends with y, you need to remember that it has to be changed to I, except when the suffix is ing. For example, baby, babies, duty, dutiful, army, armies, very, wearing. Here you are adding the suffix ing, so y remains the same. Cry, crying, copy, copying. So let's have a small recap of suffixes. Able, meaning can be done, example preventable. Li, meaning a characteristic of, example bravely. Y, meaning characterized by, example brainy. Ed, meaning the past tense of the verb, example laughed. ION, meaning the action or the process of, example celebration. MENT, meaning the action or result of, example movement. NESS, meaning the state or quality of, example fondness. And the suffix s, meaning plural, example girls. Yes, children, so a group of letters which we attach at the beginning of a word is called a prefix, and a group of letters we add to the end of the word is called a suffix. Thank you.
The prefix is the beginning. That's right. The suffix is the end. The prefix is the beginning. Let's think about a prefix then. A prefix. If you say the word happy, then add an un. You get unhappy. That's what you've done. Oh, no. And this is a prefix. It's kind of fun. Add it to the start. Now look what you've done. If you say the word zip, then add an un. You get unzip. Now look what you've done. And this is a prefix. It's kind of fun. Add it to the start. Now look what you've done. If you say the word real, then add an un. You get unreal. That's what you've done. And this is a prefix. It's kind of fun. Add it to the start. Now look what you've done. The prefix is the beginning. That's right. The suffix is the end. It's the end. If the suffix is the end, right at the end, let's talk about a suffix then. A suffix? If you say the word happy, then add ness. You get happiness. And this